Hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft. Welcome to this video where we're going to go into the Vectric software and solve a little problem that I see all the time from new users of the Vectric software. And it has to do with closing vectors and the reason that they can't get them closed. So I got this project from Jack, a very simple project. It's a fishing pole hanger. And he has some cutouts, which I'll show you in just a second, but he can't get the vectors to close in parts of these cutouts, and he doesn't know why. So the reason I'm shooting this video is because I just see this same reason coming up over and over again as to why you can't close vectors in drawings. And you're going to be surprised, but the solution is really easy. So let's jump into the software and I'll show you what's going on. So we are now in Vectric Vcarve Pro version 11. What I'm going to be showing you works across all the Vectric software, whether it's Cut2D, the Vcarve series, or the Aspire series. So first of all, here's the project that Jack has. He's got this fishing rod hanger that he's creating. And so he's got these round cutouts here, 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 and here, and then he has the little cutouts here where he wants to insert the fishing rod or whatever. And so here's what he has been able to accomplish. We will just run this right quickly, and you can see he's been able to do that part of it with a pocket cut, and this tool path is laid out right down here at the bottom. So we're going to close that, and we're going to split the screen using this button right up here. You have the 12 buttons along the top. It's the last button to the right. Press that and I split the screen so we can see the drawing and the 3D view. So what we're going to attempt to do is actually do the cutout for these little slide-ins that Jack is trying to accomplish, where you can hang the fishing rod. So in order to do that, we're going to use a pocketing tool path, because we want that tool path to cut out everything in the middle as well. You may not need to actually do that. Maybe it'll be a lot faster, the profile toolpath, but we're going to go with what Jack has done here. So I'm going to select the pocketing toolpath feature. And we're going to make sure we have the right bit, which is the 1/4 inch bit. So we want to select that because he's using the 1 inch surfacing bit right now. So a 1/4 inch end mill is what we're going to use. We're going to select that and then eliminate the 1 inch surfacing bit. And we want the depth of that cutout to go all the way through. So we're going to just say Z equals. And the thickness of his project is 0.887. And that's all we need to do. Well, we want to create this as an offset as opposed to a raster in this case. We're going to just go with offset because of the nature of the way I want this to cut. I want this tool to start in the middle and work its way outward. So we're going to come down. We have to select the part that hasn't been run yet, which is these cutouts. And when I select them, the first thing you notice is that they're a solid purple line. And so that's not a big deal at the moment, but it's an issue with why Jack can't create the closed vectors. So I'm going to calculate this, and we're going to get a warning. And the warning says ignoring grouped open vectors. So we select OK. Oh, it says there are 4 open vectors were identified and are going to be ignored. And some or all these vectors are in groups. Grouping open vectors does not join them. To use these vectors, you need to ungroup them and join them. So there are 0 remaining vectors, which means that this is not going to do anything. I'm going to select OK, and it's going to say error. There's no toolpath generated for current parameters. Check the tool can fit into selected vectors at machining depth. So the error, what it's saying is not really correct for the problem that's happening here, but basically it's saying it couldn't generate a toolpath. So we have to go back to that original alarm to really understand what's happening. So I'm going to recalculate this, and we're going to go back into this alarm. So when we go over to the, let's zoom out first. We know that there are 4 cutouts on this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to calculate and come back with the warning. It says 4 open vectors, and we only have 4 selected. So that pretty much telling me that all 4 of these are considered open vectors, which is where Jack is having this problem. He's getting this alarm. He can't figure out how to undo it. So one of the other key things that's being said here, some or all of the open vectors are in groups. And in groups, grouping open vectors does not join them. So the problem here is we have to close the vectors in order to make this work. And so Jack was saying he couldn't close these vectors. And the reason is because they are grouped. So what we're going to do is come back to the drawing area. So we're going to select the blue button up top on the right. That's going to switch us over to the design area. And then we're going to maximize this screen here. Now remember, I said that the lines right here are solid purple. If I select the circle here, you're going to see it's a dashed line. This is the way Vectric tells you whether something is grouped or ungrouped. So when I select this circle, only that circle, that one, is selected. The others aren't selected. If I select that one, that's selected with the dotted line, and it deselects this one. But if I select this hanger right here, and what happens is this one turns purple, a solid purple, that turns solid purple, and solid purple. That means they're all considered grouped together right now. And if I double click these so that I get these little dots coming up around the project, I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard to move them over, and I can see immediately that I have open vectors. So one thing we can't do right now when this is in a group is to grab a line. So I'm going to grab a polyline or a straight line, and my snaps are turned on up here. The snaps will grab endpoints of lines, and we're going to grab that. Okay, so the line has grabbed the end of that, and we're going to click that one, and then I'm going to escape. And I'm going to do the same for all of these, so that each one presumably creates a closed vector. So I click that, and when I want to restart the line, I hit spacebar, and that will restart the line. Now you see I went a little overboard right here. So I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to click the scissors and cut that. So you can see it's not really grabbing the end of that line. So let's go to node mode, hit N, and I'm going to swing it over till it grabs that point. There we go. And we're good there and there. So we got to go get the last one. And we're going to, again, click the end, and then click the end. I'm going to hit the space bar. And now we are set up, and we presumably have 4 closed vectors. So I'm not going to move these back into position right now. I'm going to show you that this is still not working, that we still have technically open vectors. And we can't create the pocket with the open vector. We're going to go back over, and I'm going to select all those. So now you can see I've selected the grouped items and then the lines, but you notice a distinct difference. This is a solid line, that is a dash line. So the dash lines are not part of a group. They are just considered a vector, a standalone vector, whereas the groups are not standalone. They are grouped with other vectors. And we're going to try to create a pocket again with those selected. So I wanted a pocket. I have to delete that bit again, the surfacing bit, and add the 1/4 inch and mill. And we selected that. and now I'm going to try to calculate again. And again, we come up with the same error. There are 8 open vectors now, as opposed to 4. And the reason is now we have this, all 4 of these were already considered open vectors, and now we have 4 more lines, which are also open vectors. Now we have 8 open vectors. So that doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to close this. We're going to switch back over, and we're going to solve this problem for Jack. So what I did is I'm clicking out here to deselect these 4 or 8 elements. And I'm going to come down to this lower corner right here, just inside. I want to get rid of these lines. So we're just going to cross over them, and I'm going to hit delete. We're going to delete each one. Basically, I'm going to delete them all at once by coming to the left of that vertical line. I'm coming to the left over here, and I'm going to hold my mouse key down, my left mouse key, and I'm going to create a window that just goes around all 3 of the remaining lines. And you see when I let go, it selected those lines. I'm going to hit delete, and so we've gotten rid of those lines. Now we only have 4 open vectors. The first thing we need to do, Jack, is ungroup these. So the way you do that is select the item, and you notice when I select this item, all other 3 of them are selected. And we're just going to hover over in the gray area, and I'm going to press the right button on my mouse, and a menu is going to pop up. And in that menu, it says Ungroup Objects. So I am going to, and when we come over that, another menu, like sub menu, comes up, and you have 2 selections. So Ungroup onto Groups Layer is the one we're going to select. And when I click that, now you notice these are now dashed lines. That means they are now independent. And so now we need to move them all back over to their original position. And let's see, we're just going to click this one again. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to just use a window. And the one thing about Vectric is getting that mouse in the exact right position over your dotted lines. There we go. We got that, and then we're going to grab that middle button, and I'm simply going to move it back to the center. And let's see what we got. So the center is not good enough. If you notice, we have a gap here. So let's try to move this over. So what we're doing now is we're just troubleshooting as we're going along. I'm going to come over to Transform Objects, the first button, which is Move Selected Objects. I select that, and we have these items selected already. So I'm going to come to this line right there and just grab the end point of that line. So you see my cursor has an arrow and like a little up and down, like 4-way arrow, and then I'm going to hover over the end of that line and my cursor changes to like a target. That means it's grabbed the end of that, and I'm simply going to hold my left mouse key down and drag it over until I get another target, which means it's grabbed the end of the material. So what's going to happen is it's still not going to work. We have to close the vector first of all. So what I'm going to do is grab the line like we did before, a polyline, and I'm simply going to close this one vector right here, and then hit escape. Now you see I've got a dashed line in there, and it's not quite on the line. So we got issues with this drawing, but that's not the point that we're trying to teach here. First thing is we have to close this vector to this one. And so what we're going to do is, while this one is selected, we're going to hold the Shift button down and simply select that one. And over in the Edit Objects area, there's a button along the bottom row that says Join or Close Vectors with a Straight Line. We are going to select that twice, and then come back over in here, and click, and now you see this unselected. And now when I select this line, this is now part of my, it's a solid piece, it's a closed vector. So now we're going to switch back over, and we are going to select. Notice I did not close these other three. You can just follow the same steps later on. So I'm selecting that one and that one. And we're going to go back into pocket mode, and I have to get rid of that surfacing bit again and select the 1/4 inch. The reason that surfacing bit keeps coming up is because I'm not saving that toolpath. I select it and I calculate. I'm going to get an error with 3 open vectors, and the last one is going to cut. So now it says 3 open vectors. Click OK, and I'm going to run it. Run all toolpaths, and I gotta go. You notice it didn't go all the way down. That's because I gotta go back on the toolpath and set the tool depth. So Z equals, we'll set your tool depth to the bottom of the material. All right, so we rerun that toolpath, and now we have it. So first you had to ungroup it. Now you see there's another problem here, and that problem is, look at that finish. There are other issues in this drawing, but that's okay. But we want to get this solved. And so I'm going to teach you a little trick of how to solve that. We're going to switch back over to the drawing. We're going to go back to 2D view, click that, and Jack, this is what you need to do. So we're going to select this. We're going to select this individual component. I'm going to select it. Oops, just select it once. Hit node. And now you see all the nodes have come up. And we're going to go from left to right. We're going to create a window around this node and this node, just like that. And I'm simply going to use my arrow keys, and I'm going to stretch this out. So the reason we got that rounded edge in here is because this is the boundary that the bit is going to run on in a pocket. And that boundary ended here, which means that the radius of the tool can only come up to here. By doing this, we'll ensure that the bit comes outside of the part, and then we'll go back into the part. So when I created the window around these 2 nodes, it turned the nodes red. That means they're selected, and they're selected as a group. I can grab this node and I can pull them around just like that. And I can do anything I want with them, so I can change the shape of it. In order to get it back, hit Control Z, and that'll put you back to where you were. So we're going to get out of the node mode by hitting N again. And we're going to come back over to the toolpath area. Now we want to recalculate this pocketing toolpath we just created to make this work. So the easy way to do this, to recalculate, is by pressing Recalculate All toolpaths. And that will recalculate everything. The other way you can do it is by hovering over the toolpath you want to recalculate, right click and go over the word recalculate, then simply click recalculate, and it will recalculate that toolpath. So now we're going to come back into preview toolpaths, and we are going to reset. And then we're going to run all toolpaths. And now when we look at this, we now have a clear pass-through on the fishing rod thing. So what we've covered here are a couple of things. Number one is you can't close vectors when projects are in groups. You have to ungroup it, then close the vector, and then if you want, you can regroup everything. And the way I'll show you that real quick is to regroup is we're going back to 2D, and we can select these which are already selected. I can right click right out here and click group objects. When I do that, you'll notice that they turn a solid purple again. This
feature has to be copied down to here, or you need to repeat the same steps by ungrouping. I'm going to hit Control Z, and that will ungroup everything, and redraw that line or close that end over here, and then join the vectors with a straight line, and that will close it. And then of course you're going to have to lengthen it so the tool comes outside the material. So I hope this video taught you something about grouping and why you can't join vectors and other issues you may run into.
If you got something out of this video, please give me a like, thumbs up, comment down below. And now you have learned about grouping. The grouping is the issue I see all the time with people, where they bring something in or create something, try to copy them. There's usually a little checkbox that says copy as a group, and so when you get the solid lines, that's when you have items that are grouped, and you want to ungroup them, and then you can close the vectors. And so that's about everything that I wanted to show you in this little simple project. There were other errors in this project that could be refined, but the whole thing will work as it is, Jack. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Happy CNCing.